You've been sold a lie. It's a quiet, devastating lie repeated in every well-intentioned piece of advice, every quick-fix self-help manual, and in the productivity culture we live in. The lie is this: healing is a straight line. They've led you to believe recovery from trauma, loss, or deep crisis should look like an ascending graph, reaching a cured endpoint. That's why when you have a bad day after months of being well, when cold returns to your chest, or old anxiety wakes you up at 3 a.m., you feel worse than the original pain. You feel like you have failed. You feel fundamentally broken in a way no one else seems to be. But you haven't failed. You are not irreparably broken. The problem isn't you, it's the map they gave you. Welcome to the 4 seasons of your mind. The premise of this audiobook is radically different. You are not a machine needing repair. You are an ecosystem needing cultivation. Machines operate linearly. Nature operates in cycles. And you, with your complex nervous system, memories, and body, are pure nature. Neuroscience and trauma psychology teach us that the body keeps the score of everything. When we face something overwhelming, our inner garden often freezes. This isn't a system error, it's a brilliant defense mechanism. Your body, in its infinite wisdom, decided to hibernate to keep you safe when the environment was too hostile. This audiobook is not a repair manual. It is an almanac for the resilient gardener within you. Over the next 10 chapters, we journey through your psyche's seasons. We begin in winter, validating moments of collapse and freezing, learning to hibernate without guilt. We move to spring, the confusing, painful stage of thawing. We travel to summer, where we use the energy of rage and action to set boundaries. Finally, autumn is the harvest. In autumn, we use the ancient Japanese technique of Kintsugi to fill your scars with gold, understanding that the mended vessel is infinitely more valuable than the one that never broke. Listen closely. The goal is not to never feel pain or have eternal summer in your head. That's impossible. The goal is that when winter returns, because it always does, it no longer catches you without a coat. That you know how to read your body's signals, have firewood stored, and know how to light your own fire. Stop trying to forget the past. You cannot erase the history your body has memorized, but you can change the ending. You can take that fallow, frozen ground and turn it, little by little, season by season, into a place worth living. Let's start at the beginning. It's cold out here. Let's step into winter. Chapter 1. The Right to Hibernate. Understanding the Freeze. The Anatomy of Ice. Why your body turned off the light. Let's start with a scene you might know too well. The alarm rings. It's an ordinary morning, a Tuesday or Thursday, and the outside world is spinning as usual. Cars pass, people buy coffee, emails fly. Everything seems normal. But you open your eyes and feel the gravity in your room has shifted. It's not just tiredness. It's something heavier, older, and more frightening. It's as if your veins are filled with molten lead. There is a dense, almost physical fog behind your eyes. You look at the ceiling, and the simple idea of lifting the sheets, putting a foot on the floor, and walking to the bathroom feels as monumental as climbing Everest without oxygen. Your mind, once quick and sharp, now seems like an engine trying to start in the middle of Antarctica. It coughs, turns slowly, and stalls. Then, immediately after noticing the paralysis, the second wave arrives, the one that hurts more than fatigue. Guilt. A voice in your head starts its usual cruel and repetitive monologue. Not again. What's wrong with you? You're a mess. Look at everyone else, how they live, how they function. You're lazy, you're weak, you're hopeless. Get up now, you useless. You try to force yourself. You drink 3 cups of coffee, hoping chemistry will work a miracle. You internally yell at yourself. Maybe you manage to get up and move around the house like a zombie, doing chores mechanically, but inside, no one is home. The lights are on, but the house is empty. You are dissociated, separated from your emotions, viewing your life through thick, dirty glass. Welcome to ground zero of this journey. Welcome to the winter of the nervous system. To understand why you are here and, more importantly, to stop hating yourself for being here, we need to stop talking about willpower and start talking about electricity. Imagine your body is a sophisticated mansion with a complex electrical system. This mansion is designed to withstand the normal currents of daily life. Work stress, family arguments, deadlines, surprises. Your nervous system regulates this voltage automatically. When there is a challenge, an exam, slamming the brakes in the car, the voltage goes up to give you energy. This is your sympathetic system, fight or flight. When the danger passes, the voltage drops and you rest. This is your parasympathetic system, rest and digest. But what happens when lightning strikes the house? What happens when the incoming voltage is 1,000 times greater than what the wires can handle? This is what we call trauma, and I don't just mean car accidents or wars. Trauma can be years of emotional neglect in childhood, an abusive relationship where you never knew when the bomb would explode, a devastating loss, or the chronic accumulation of inescapable stress. When that lightning bolt of overwhelming experience hits your system, your body has to make a split-second decision. If it lets that current run through the wires, the whole house will catch fire. Organs will fail, the brain will fry. The destruction would be total. So your body, which loves you more than you can imagine, and whose only mission is to keep you alive, does the only sensible thing it can do. It flips the main switch. Click. Darkness. That which you call depression, laziness, demotivation, or blockage is biologically known as dorsal vagal collapse. It is the most primitive and ancient defense mechanism we possess. It's what the opossum does when it plays dead in front of a predator. It's what the mouse does when the cat catches it. The body shuts down all non-essential functions. Digestion stops, heart rate drops to a minimum, facial expression flattens, the voice loses its melodic tone. You become a statue. You become ice. The fundamental problem is that no one gave us the instruction manual for our own biology. We live in a society obsessed with the straight line of progress. We are told that if we are not moving forward, we are moving backward. We are told that rest is a reward to be earned, not a physiological necessity. So when your switch trips to save you from an emotional fire, you don't interpret it as an act of protection. You interpret it as a moral failure. Think of the cruelty of this. Your body has just saved your life by disconnecting you from unbearable pain, and you respond by attacking your own body. It's as if a firefighter pulled you out of a burning house and you yelled at him for messing up your hair. This internal struggle, the war between your biology that needs to shut down and your mind that demands productivity, is what turns a natural, temporary winter into an eternal ice age. Modern science, through Dr. Stephen Porges' Polyvagal Theory, teaches us something fascinating. Neuroception. It is your body's internal surveillance system. Unlike perception, which is conscious, like seeing a red car, neuroception occurs below consciousness. Your nervous system is scanning the environment 24 hours a day, asking, "Am I safe?" When you are in this winter state, your neuroception has detected correctly or incorrectly that the world is still dangerous. Perhaps the danger passed years ago. The abusive father is gone, the tyrannical boss left. But your body hasn't received the memo. For your nervous system, the year is still that terrible year. The body remains trapped in the moment of impact. And herein lies the great paradox of trauma. The mechanism that saved us in the past is the same one that prevents us from living in the present. That numbness that allowed you to survive a lonely childhood now prevents you from connecting with your partner. That ability to mentally disappear that helped you endure a toxic job now prevents you from enjoying your vacation. The shield has fused with the skin. But do not despair. Understanding this is half the battle. By understanding the anatomy of ice, we can stop trying to break it with a hammer. If you try to break the ice by force, you will only fragment yourself further. If you try to run on a sprain, you will only break the bone. In this first part of the chapter, I want you to hold on to a single idea, and I want you to repeat it like a mantra every time you feel that heaviness in your chest. I am not broken, I am hibernating. My body is trying to protect me from a fire it believes is still happening. Validating your state is the first step to changing it. You cannot heal what you reject. As long as you continue to look at your laziness with hatred, your nervous system will detect that hatred as an internal threat. Danger, I am being attacked, your neuroception will scream. And what does the body do when faced with danger? It freezes more. It's a vicious cycle. You freeze, you hate yourself for freezing. The hatred generates more danger. You freeze more deeply. Today we are going to break that cycle. We are going to stop seeing winter as an enemy. We are going to put down our weapons. In the second part of this chapter, we will learn not to fight the cold, but to inhabit it with dignity. We will learn the wisdom of the cave. The wisdom of the cave. Stopping the fight against winter. Now that we have established that your paralysis is a biological response and not a character flaw, the inevitable question arises, okay, I understand it's a defense mechanism, but how do I get out of here? I don't want to live in a cave forever. It's a fair question, but the answer is counterintuitive. Imagine falling into quicksand. The immediate, visceral and logical instinct is to fight. You kick, you thrash your arms, you try to climb upward. But the physics of quicksand dictates that the more you struggle, the faster you sink. The struggle creates a vacuum and suction. To get out of quicksand, you must do the opposite of what your panic screams at you. You must stay still. You must spread your arms, increase your surface area, and float. You must surrender to the experience to survive it. The exact same thing happens with the winter of trauma. You don't exit winter by running. You exit winter by resting. This is where we must redefine the concept of active hibernation. In our society, rest is seen as the absence of activity. It is a void. But in nature, rest is an active, vital metabolic state. When a tree sheds its leaves in autumn, it is not dead. If you could see under the ground, you would see frantic activity in its roots. The tree is withdrawing its sap from the branches, where it would freeze, and concentrating it in its core and roots. It is nourishing itself. It is expanding its base, so that when spring arrives, it can support taller branches and heavier fruit. What you have been doing until now has probably not been hibernating, but collapsing. There is a crucial difference. Collapse is filled with resistance. You are lying on the couch, but your mind is running a marathon of self-loathing. Your body is still, but your cortisol levels are through the roof. That is not rest. That exhausts. Hibernation, in contrast, is a conscious surrender. It is saying, okay, right now I don't have the energy to bloom. Right now I am only roots. How is this conscious hibernation practiced? How do we start melting the ice without using flamethrowers? The key lies in the language we use with our body. Remember, your body is like a frightened animal. You cannot reason with it using complex logic. You cannot tell a scared dog, hey, statistically it's unlikely I will hurt you. The dog doesn't understand statistics. It understands tone of voice, posture, and calm. Your nervous system works the same way. Here are 3 fundamental practices for inhabiting your winter without freezing to death. 1. The radical permission to pause. The first step is to stop the civil war in your head. When you feel the mental fog descend, instead of trying to push through it, pause, verbalize or write down the following. I give myself permission to function at a low capacity today. It seems simple, but it is revolutionary. By giving yourself permission, you eliminate resistance. When you eliminate resistance, the threat signal decreases. When the threat decreases, your nervous system can timidly begin to consider the possibility of reactivating. If you need to sleep 12 hours, sleep. If you can only wash 1 dish, wash 1. Celebrate that dish as if it were an Olympic medal. You are retraining your brain to value the effort, not just the result. 2. Micro movements for thawing. When you are in a frozen state, large movements, like going to the gym or cleaning the house, are impossible. Trying them only reinforces your sense of failure. Instead, we use what somatic therapy calls titration. Small doses. If you are lying down and cannot get up, do not try to get up. Try moving only the little toe of your left foot. Feel that movement. Then rotate your ankles. Then slowly open and close your hands. These micro movements send a subtle signal from the periphery of your body to your brain. Look, I have control over my body. I am moving, and I am still safe. It is a way of telling the switch that it can start raising the lever, millimeter by millimeter. Another powerful exercise is orientation. Slowly move your neck and look around the room. Let your eyes settle on an object, a chair, a painting, a plant. Name the object and its color aloud. Brown chair, white wall. This helps your reptilian brain locate itself in the present time and space, pulling it out of the there and then of the trauma and bringing it into the here and now of safety. Trachea seeking warmth, literal and metaphorical. Trauma is cold, healing is warmth. This is literal. Often, people in states of dissociation have cold hands and feet because blood is withdrawn from the extremities. Use this to your advantage. Take a hot shower. Wrap yourself in a heavy blanket. The weight helps with proprioception, feeling your body's boundaries. Take a warm drink and feel it travel down your esophagus to your stomach. Concentrate obsessively on that thermal sensation. Physical warmth communicates safety to the nervous system in a way that words cannot. Finally, I want to talk to you about patience. I know you want to be well now. I know you see your friends or colleagues moving forward and feel like you are falling behind. But remember nature. You cannot yell at a seed to make it grow faster. You cannot open a flower bud with your fingers without killing it. There is a dark, silent gestation period that is absolutely necessary for life. What you are experiencing now is not lost time. It is rooting time. You are rebuilding the foundations of your house because the previous ones were not strong enough for the earthquake you experienced. This time, you are building with knowledge. You are building with compassion. So for now, put down your weapons. Stop watching the door waiting for spring to arrive. Make yourself some tea. Sit by the fire of your own breath. Accept your winter. Because it is precisely in the depth of this silence that your authentic voice, the one you thought was lost forever, is beginning to regain its strength to speak again. Winter is not the end of your story. It is simply the beginning of a new season. And I promise you something. Spring always comes, but to receive it, we must first survive the cold. Chapter 2. Building the greenhouse, your safe haven. From exposure to shelter. The need for a sacred space. Imagine you're in the middle of a vast plain. It's night and a snowstorm has broken out. The wind howls, visibility is zero, and the cold pierces every layer of clothing you wear. In the last chapter, we learned that your body, faced with this, decides to hibernate. It curls up on the ground, becomes a ball, and conserves heat. It's a brilliant strategy for immediate survival. But here is the problem. You cannot live curled up in the snow forever. Eventually, the cold wins. To survive the winter long-term, and more importantly, to prepare the ground for something to grow in the future, you need a structure. You need a place where the brutal rules of the external storm do not apply. You need a greenhouse. In the context of your mind and nervous system, the greenhouse is not a physical place. It is a state of being. It is the ability to build a sense of internal security that you can carry with you, even when the outside world, or your own memories, feels dangerous. Let's talk about an uncomfortable truth about trauma. Trauma is fundamentally a housing crisis. When we suffer trauma, especially if it was prolonged, our body stops feeling like a safe home. It becomes a haunted house. The rooms are full of echoes of the past. The floorboards creak with painful memories, and you never know when a scare will jump out from a dark closet. As a result, we move out into our heads. We dissociate. We live in the attic of our thoughts, analyzing, worrying, and obsessing, because coming down to the body, coming down to the living room, or the basement feels terrifying. You live exposed to the elements of your own mind, vulnerable to the winds of anxiety and self-criticism, because your body, your true home, feels unsafe. Building the greenhouse means reclaiming your body. It means coming down from the attic, cleaning the living room, lighting the fireplace, and saying, "This is my house and I'm going to make it safe for me again." But how do you build safety when your entire alarm system is broken and constantly blaring? Neuroscience gives us a crucial clue. Safety is not the absence of threat. It is the presence of connection. For your primitive nervous system, being safe doesn't mean there are no tigers outside. It means you have a solid cave and a tribe, or an internal connection, backing you up. The first brick of your greenhouse is what in somatic therapy we call anchoring or grounding. You've probably heard this term 1,000 times in yoga or meditation, and it might sound like an abstract concept. But anchoring is pure biological physics. When you are in a state of anxiety or trauma, your energy is dispersed upward. Your breathing becomes shallow in the chest. Your shoulders rise. Your eyes move quickly. Your thoughts race. Literally, you are trying to fly away from the situation. You are uprooted. A greenhouse without foundations will blow away with the first gust of wind. Therefore, before planting flowers, before decorating, we have to pour cement. I want you to visualize gravity, not as a force crushing you, but as an embrace holding you up. The Earth is a massive object with the infinite capacity to absorb your tension. When you feel overwhelmed, it is because you are trying to hold all the weight of the world with your own muscles. Anchoring is the act of letting go of that weight and letting the ground hold it for you. Let's perform an internal architecture experiment right now. You don't need to close your eyes if you don't want to. In fact, for people with trauma, closing their eyes is sometimes dangerous because the mind floods with images. So, keep your eyes open, but soften your gaze. Feel your feet. Don't just think about them, inhabit them. Feel the exact point where your heel touches the floor. Feel the sole of your foot, your toes. Now imagine roots growing out of your feet, but not weak roots, but steel beams and light that penetrate the floor, pass through the building's cement, go down through the earth, pass through layers of rock and magma, and hook on to the magnetic core of the planet. You are bolted down. The storm can shake your branches, your thoughts. It can shake your leaves, your emotions. But it cannot rip you out because your trunk is welded to the earth. This physical sensation of heaviness and contact is the floor of your greenhouse. Without this, any attempt to think positive is useless. You cannot decorate a house that has no floor. When anxiety tells you you have to fix this now, your anchored body replies, "First, I feel the ground. Then, I exist. And only then, I resolve." But a greenhouse needs more than just a floor. It needs transparent walls. It needs a structure that lets in the light but keeps out the icy wind. In psychological terms, these walls are your containment boundaries. Trauma makes us feel spilled out, as if we have no skin. We feel others' emotions as our own. We are flooded by noise. We feel invaded by everything. Building the greenhouse walls means creating an energetic second skin. Visualize this. You are sitting in your secure base. Now imagine you build a glass dome around you. It can be armored glass, golden light, or a magical material of your invention. The rule of this material is selective permeability. You decide what comes in and what goes out. Inside this dome, the temperature is different from the outside. Outside, it may be 20 degrees, criticism, stress, chaos, but inside your dome, you control the thermostat. Inside, there is a tropical microclimate, humid and warm. This visualization is not an escapist fantasy. By doing this, you are sending a signal to your limbic brain, the emotional center. There is a perimeter here. Inside here, I rule. You are defining the space where healing will occur. The great mistake we make when trying to heal is trying to fix the entire outside world to feel safe. We want our partner to change, work to be less stressful, the past to disappear. That is impossible. That is trying to heat the North Pole with a hairdryer. What you can do is build a 3-meter greenhouse inside yourself, a small, manageable, sacred space, a place where, no matter what happens outside, you return to regulate your temperature. In the second part of this chapter, we are going to furnish this space. We will see how to use breath and the senses to install a central heating system that doesn't depend on anyone else. Because a cold greenhouse is just a glass cage, we need fire, the heating system, breath and senses. We already have the foundations, anchoring, and the walls, containment. Now we are inside your greenhouse. Outside, life is still chaotic, but in here, the noise is muffled. However, it is still cold. For life to sprout again, we need to activate your body's biological heating system. That system has a name, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the main wiring of your calm system, parasympathetic. It runs from your brain, down your neck, wraps around your heart, lungs, and reaches your gut. It is the switch that converts the danger signal into safety. Most people try to relax by thinking. They tell themselves, "Calm down, it's okay, relax." But the vagus nerve does not speak Spanish or English or any human language. You cannot give it verbal commands. The vagus nerve speaks the language of physiology. If you want to turn on the heating, you have to speak its language. And the most important word in that language is exhalation. Notice how you breathe when you are scared or stressed. You take quick, large breaths, you inhale. Inhalation is the accelerator. It activates the sympathetic system, alert. It prepares the body for action. Conversely, exhalation is the brake. When you exhale, the heart rate slows down. It is the sigh of relief when you get home and take off your shoes. To heat your greenhouse, we are going to practice heating breathing. It is not complicated. You don't need to be a Zen monk. The rule is simple. Your exhalation must be twice as long as your inhalation. Try it now. Inhale gently through your nose, counting to 4. Feel the fresh air coming in. Now, purse your lips slightly, as if you were going to blow on hot soup or carefully inflate a soap bubble. And exhale through your mouth, counting to 8. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do it 3 times. With each long exhalation, imagine you are releasing warm air inside your greenhouse, raising the temperature 1 degree each time. You are hacking your own operating system. You are sending a chemical signal to your brain that says, if I have time to exhale so slowly, it is impossible that a predator is chasing me. Therefore, I am safe. It is reverse biology. Normally, we feel safe and then we relax. Here we breathe as if we are relaxed to convince the body that we are safe. But heating is not just air, it is ambiance. For your greenhouse to be a real haven, it has to be sensorially pleasant. Here enters the power of the senses of security. Trauma disconnects us from the senses or makes us hypersensitive to them. To heal, we must heal our relationship with what we touch, smell, and hear. You need to furnish your greenhouse with sensory objects that bring you peace. Think of this as decorating your inner room. What textures make you feel cared for? Touch. Maybe it's the feeling of a weighted blanket. Weight releases serotonin. Maybe it's petting your dog or cat. Maybe it's the warm water on your hands. In your mental greenhouse, wrap yourself in that texture. Smell. Scent is the only sense that goes directly to the limbic system without passing through the rational filter. A smell can transport you to hell, a traumatic memory, or heaven in a millisecond. Find your safety scent. Vanilla, wet earth, your grandmother's perfume. Have that scent handy. Literally buy an essential oil or a candle, and use it when you enter your refuge. Hearing. White noise, rain, or a soft voice. Total silence is sometimes threatening to a traumatized mind because the brain starts looking for dangers. Often a soft rhythmic sound is safer than silence. Now let's integrate all this. You are going about your day. Suddenly, something happens. An aggressive email, bad news, or simply a wave of sadness for no reason. You feel winter invading you. You feel the urge to collapse or explode. Instead, you go to your greenhouse. You don't need to physically leave the place. You can do it in the middle of a meeting. Floor. You feel your feet. You drive in the roots. You anchor yourself. 5 seconds. Walls. You visualize the glass dome around you. The outside noise is muffled. You are inside. 5 seconds. Heating. You take 2 breaths with a long exhale. Inhale 4, exhale 8. 20 seconds. Decoration. You invoke a pleasant sensation. The smell of coffee, the softness of your sweater. In less than a minute, you have changed your physiology. You haven't solved the external problem. The email is still there, but you have changed who is responding to the problem. It is no longer a scared, frozen animal responding. It is the gardener from their greenhouse. There is an important warning I must give you. At first, your greenhouse will feel fragile. The first few times you try this, the outside storm will seem stronger. Intrusive thoughts will hit the glass. You will feel the heat escaping quickly. It's normal. You are building a new structure on wild terrain. Don't get frustrated if at first you only manage to feel safe for 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds are pure gold. They are 10 seconds in which your body stopped producing stress hormones and started producing repair hormones. With practice, those seconds will turn into minutes and minutes into hours. What we are doing here is creating a portable sanctuary. The ultimate goal of this audiobook is not that you never feel fear. Fear is necessary. It warns us of real dangers. The goal is that you never feel helpless in the face of fear again. Helplessness is the belief that there is no shelter. Now you know there is. You carry it with you. It is in the soles of your feet and in the air that leaves your lungs. Today your task is simple. Visit your greenhouse 3 times. Don't wait until you feel bad to go. Go when you are well. Sit there, breathe, feel the warmth. Make it familiar, because when the real blizzard comes, you will want to know the way by heart, so you can run inside and close the door behind you, knowing that as long as you have your breath, you will always have a safe place to be. Chapter 3. Roots in the Darkness, the Invisible Work. The illusion of emptiness. What happens when nothing happens? We live in the age of visibility. Since birth, we are trained to value only what can be seen, measured, and photographed. We celebrate flowers, fruits, the height of the tree. We applaud job promotions, new houses, toned bodies, and social media smiles. We have built a culture that adores the harvest and despises the sowing, a culture that loves eternal summer and mortally fears winter. And because of this conditioning, when you enter your personal winter, when depression immobilizes you, when grief shuts you down, or when trauma leaves you speechless, you panic. You look at your life and see nothing, no recent achievements, no progress. Your days seem like a blurry repetition of empty hours. You look at your peers, and it seems everyone is building skyscrapers, while you can barely stand in a dark basement. The logical conclusion under the rules of our society is devastating. I'm wasting time, my life is on pause, I'm falling behind. But today, in the safety of your greenhouse, we are going to challenge that logic. We are going to look beneath the earth. This chapter is about the invisible work. To understand it, we need to observe the wisdom of ancient agriculture. For thousands of years, farmers have known that the earth cannot produce endlessly. If you force a field to yield wheat year after year, without rest, the soil becomes exhausted. Minerals are consumed, the earth's structure breaks down, and eventually, the field dies. It turns into barren dust. To prevent this, there is fallow. Fallow is the practice of leaving land unplanted for 1 or more seasons. To the eyes of a layman passing by the road, that field seems abandoned. It looks empty, useless, full of ugly stubble. What a waste of land, one might think. But the farmer knows the truth. That field is not doing nothing. That field is working harder than ever. Beneath the surface, a silent, frantic alchemy is taking place. The earth is recovering nitrogen, restructuring its layers, absorbing deep rain moisture, and composting the remains of the previous harvest to turn them into future fertilizer. You are not stagnant, you are fallowing. What you feel as emptiness or apathy is in reality a biological and psychological process of massive reorganization. Modern neurobiology shows us that during periods of deep rest and apparent inactivity, the brain is incredibly active but in a different way. When you stop focusing on external tasks, doing, your brain activates the default mode network. It is in this state that memory is consolidated, complex emotions are processed, and identity is integrated. Think of trauma as a library where an earthquake has knocked all the books to the floor. They are disorganized, broken, piled up, blocking the aisles. While you were trying to survive, in fight-flight mode, you simply jumped over the piles of books to run out. But now, in the stillness of winter, your brain has closed the library to the public. It has put up the sign, "Closed for renovations." From the outside, it looks like the library is not functioning. No one is entering or leaving. But inside, in the darkness and silence, the librarians are working frantically. They are picking up every book, every memory, dusting it off, reading the broken pages, and finding the exact place it should go on the shelf of your story. This process of organizing internal chaos consumes a brutal amount of energy. That is why you are so tired. It's not because you are lazy, it's because you are lifting 100-pound emotional weights in the gym of your subconscious. The tragedy is that because we cannot see this work, we do not validate it, and by not validating it, we interrupt it. Imagine an impatient gardener who, upon not seeing green sprouts 2 days after planting a seed, digs it up to see if it is growing. In doing so, he kills the nascent root. That is what you do every time you criticize yourself for doing nothing. You interrupt the delicate rooting work your psyche is trying to carry out. There is one plant that illustrates this better than any other, the Chinese bamboo. When you plant the Chinese bamboo seed, you see nothing for 5 years, nothing. You water the soil, fertilize it, and wait. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. The soil remains bare. People would mock you. They would tell you that you planted a stone, that you are delusional. But during those 5 years beneath the earth, the bamboo is building a root system so complex, dense, and extensive that it spans meters and meters of terrain. It is preparing itself to bear the weight of what is to come. And then, in the 5th year, the miracle happens. In a matter of 6 weeks, the bamboo grows up to 25 meters tall. Did it grow 25 meters in 6 weeks? No. It grew 25 meters in 5 years and 6 weeks. If it hadn't spent those 5 invisible years creating foundations, the cane would have broken with the first wind upon reaching 1 meter in height. You are the bamboo. Your trauma, your crisis broke your previous structures. You realized you couldn't sustain the life you were leading with the roots you had. They were too short, too weak. Now, in this darkness that frightens you so much, you are growing new roots. You are seeking water in deeper strata of your soul where you had never reached before. This doing nothing is the most productive activity of your life. You are building the foundation that will sustain your next 10 years of growth. You are going from being a potted plant to being an oak. But for this to work, for the fallow to be fertile and not sterile, we have to change the way we inhabit the darkness. We have to stop being afraid of what is unseen. In the second part of this chapter, we will learn to differentiate between rotting and rooting, because although both occur in the darkness, one leads to death and the other to life. The dialogue in the darkness, rooting versus rotting. We have established that darkness is necessary, but let's be honest, darkness is also dangerous. A damp, unventilated basement can breed toxic mold. Similarly, a period of isolation and depression can become destructive if not managed with the right intention. Here we arrive at a vital distinction for your emotional survival. The difference between rotting and rooting. Both processes look similar externally. In both, you are still. You are underground, you are silent, and surrounded by darkness. But the internal chemistry is opposite. Rotting is inactivity mixed with judgment, shame, and self-contempt. It is lying in bed thinking, I am garbage, this will never change, I hate my life, it's my fault. This internal dialogue is acidic. It corrodes the seed of your potential. Shame is a poison that prevents the earth from breathing. When you rot, you close yourself off tightly. The air becomes stale. You consume yourself. Rooting is inactivity mixed with curiosity, compassion, and patience. It is lying in bed, the same posture, but thinking, I am hurt and I need time. I am exploring who I am now that everything is broken. I am feeling this pain so I don't have to carry it forever. Rooting is an act of vertical growth downward. Our culture only understands horizontal growth, advancing, achieving things, or vertical growth upward, ascending, standing out. But when the path forward is blocked by the ice of winter, the only free path is downward, into the deep. How is active rooting practiced? How do we ensure we are not simply rotting in our sadness? The key is the narrative. The story you tell yourself about your darkness determines whether that darkness is a tomb or a womb. Imagine you are a speleologist, a cave explorer. You have descended into the depths not because you fell, but because there is something valuable down there that you need to retrieve. Perhaps it is your lost innocence, your capacity for wonder, or simply the truth about who you are without the masks you wore on the surface. Here are 3 tools for practicing conscious rooting and turning your fallow land into fertile ground. 1. The night journal, low-pressure writing. Often when we try to write or process trauma, we become very solemn. We want to write great revelations. That is too much pressure. For rooting, you need subterranean writing. Buy a cheap notebook, not a beautiful one you'd hate to mess up. And every night or when you feel the paralysis, write only what is true in that moment, without trying to fix it. Today I feel like a stone. I'm afraid my friends will forget me, my chest hurts. Period. Don't add, but tomorrow I'll be better. Don't try to give it a happy ending. Rooting requires brutal honesty. By naming the monsters in the darkness, without trying to fight them, you strip them of their power. They stop being predators and become annoying but manageable roommates. You are documenting the texture of the earth. 2. Nourishing the subsoil, passive consumption of beauty. When you don't have the energy to create output, you must focus on receiving input. But be careful what you consume. If you fill your mind with tragic news or social media where everyone is perfect, you are pouring salt on your land. Nourish your roots with things that have soul. Listen to music that matches your mood. Not cheerful music to cheer you up, but melancholic music that makes you feel understood. Read poetry. Watch movies about human resilience. You are looking for water for your roots. You are looking for references of others who went down into the darkness and came back to tell about it. By doing so, you connect to an invisible human root network. You realize that you are not alone underground. You are in the company of all the poets, philosophers, and survivors of history. 3. The miner's question. In the darkest moments when despair tightens its grip, ask yourself a single question. Do not ask, "When will this end?" That question generates anxiety. Ask, "What is this darkness trying to teach me that the light could not?" Perhaps the darkness is teaching you to set boundaries. Perhaps it is teaching you who your true friends are, the ones who go down into the cave with you, and the ones who stay up yelling for you to come out. Perhaps it is teaching you the humility to accept help. You don't need the immediate answer. Just launching the question into the void changes your attitude from victim to student. Roots have their own intelligence called hydrotropism. They know how to seek water. Your psychological roots have it too. They know where life is. The problem is that often that water is found under very hard rocks of unprocessed pain. Right now, you are drilling through that rock. It hurts, it is slow, it is dark. But it is the noblest work you will ever do, because once your roots reach that deep aquifer, that reserve of unconditional self-love and resilience, you will never again depend on surface rain, others' approval, external success to survive. You will be a tree that is always green even in drought because your source is internal and deep. So, dear gardener, do not be afraid of the dirt under your nails. Do not be afraid of the silence. Do not rush to return to the surface. There are treasures down here that you cannot find above in the blinding sun. Take your time. Let the bamboo grow downward as much as it needs to. Trust the fallow. And remember, spring does not arrive because you pull the stems upward. Spring arrives because the roots have done their work and life inevitably seeks the light. But to seek the light, you must first have something to push off from. You are building that foundation. Chapter 4. The Pain of Thawing, Managing Anxiety. The Spring Trap. Why healing hurts more than being broken. Welcome to the most confusing, treacherous, and misunderstood stage of the entire resilience process. If winter was silence, darkness, and anesthesia, spring does not begin with birds singing and flowers gently opening under a kind sun. That is the Disney version. In the reality of the human psyche and wild nature, spring begins with violence. It begins with the deafening sound of ice cracking. It begins with floods. It begins with chaos. You are probably listening to this chapter because something has recently changed in you. You've been practicing rest, built your greenhouse, and stopped punishing yourself for hibernating. And suddenly, instead of feeling the Zen peace you expected, you feel panic. You wake up with your heart pounding against your ribs. Your thoughts, once slow and foggy, now race like runaway horses in a fire. You feel an electrical irritability under your skin. You feel like screaming, crying, or running away. You feel too much, and your immediate conclusion is devastating. I've regressed. I was better when I was depressed in bed. All this work has been for nothing. I'm getting worse. Stop right there. Breathe. What I am about to tell you is counterintuitive, but it is the cornerstone for surviving this stage. That pain, that anxiety, and that internal chaos are not signs of failure. They are irrefutable proof that you are coming back to life. To understand this, we must return to basic physiology, specifically what happens in a physical body recovering from severe frostbite or hypothermia. When a person has a frozen limb, they feel nothing. The nerves are shut down. The tissue is numb. It is a painless state because the connection has been severed. But the moment you apply heat and blood begins to circulate again, the experience is excruciating. It's called reperfusion. You feel pinpricks, burning, a sharp, stabbing pain, as if 1,000 needles were piercing your skin from within. If that person did not know medicine, they would think the heat was hurting them. They would think, stop, I was better before when I couldn't feel my leg. But the doctor knows the truth. The pain is the signal that the nerves are reconnecting. Pain is the price of entry to regain the leg. If it didn't hurt, it would mean the tissue is dead, necrosis. What you are feeling now, that anxiety, that sudden fear, that hypersensitivity, are the pinpricks of your soul thawing. Let's talk about the polyvagal ladder to visualize where you are. Imagine a 3-rung ladder. Bottom rung, winter. You are in the dorsal vagal state, freeze, shutdown, depression. Here there is no energy, but there is also no active fear. You are anesthetized. Middle rung, the danger zone. You are in the sympathetic state, fight or flight, mobilization, anxiety, adrenaline, panic, rage. Top rung, summer safety. You are in the ventral vagal state, social connection, calm, joy, safety. Here is the big secret no one tells you. To climb from winter basement to summer attic, you must pass through the middle rung. You cannot teleport from depression to happiness. Biologically, your nervous system has to reactivate. It has to start the engines. And when an engine that has been off for a long time starts up, it makes noise, spews smoke, and vibrates violently. That anxiety you feel is survival energy that was trapped in your body when the original trauma occurred. And now, finally, it is being released. Think about the moment of trauma. Maybe you wanted to scream but couldn't. Maybe you wanted to run but couldn't. That run-scream energy froze inside you. Now that you are thawing, that energy bursts out. Your body wants to complete the action it left pending years ago. The great danger of spring is not the anxiety itself. The danger is how you interpret that anxiety. If you interpret a racing heart as I am in danger or I am sick, you will panic. If you panic, your body will say, oh no, too much intensity, abort mission. And what will it do? It will flip the switch again. It will send you back to winter. You will dissociate and become depressed again, because although depression is sad, at least it is quiet. Many of us spend years trapped in this yo-yo cycle. We start healing. We feel anxiety, thawing. We panic. We freeze again to stop feeling. We get fed up with being frozen. We start healing. We feel anxiety. To break this cycle, you need to change your mental label. The next time you feel that knot in your stomach, that agitation in your chest, do not say, I have anxiety. Say, I have thawing energy. Don't say, something is wrong. Say, my system is rebooting its sensors. Imagine a river that has been frozen all winter. The surface was solid, you could walk on it. Everything was still. But now spring comes. The ice cracks with a roar. The blocks of ice crash into each other. The water flows fast, murky, and dangerous. There is a risk of overflowing. Is it comfortable? No. It is terrifying. Is it preferable to the frozen dead river? Absolutely. Because in the flowing river there is life, there is movement, there is a possibility of reaching the ocean. You are in the turbulent river stage. Your sensitivity has returned. Now loud noises bother you. Other people's comments hurt you. You cry at television commercials. You feel vulnerable, like a crab that has just shed its shell and has soft skin exposed to the world. I want you to validate this pain. I want you to understand that the discomfort you feel today is a trophy. It means your greenhouse worked. It means you felt safe enough to start feeling again. Your body has decided it no longer needs to be dead to survive. It has decided to risk living. But of course, knowing this intellectually does not change the fact that it feels awful. We don't want to drown in this torrent of sensations. We need to learn to swim in these fast waters. We need to learn to manage the flow so that the river doesn't sweep away the town. In the second part of this chapter, I will teach you how to surf this wave of energy without being wiped out. We will learn about the window of tolerance and how to open the tap of your emotions, drop by drop, instead of all at once. Surfing the wave, the window of tolerance and titration. Welcome to the bank of the turbulent river. We already know that rough water is a sign of life, but that doesn't mean you should jump headfirst into the rapids without a life jacket. If you do, you will re-traumatize yourself. Your system will overload and shut down again. The art of navigating psychological spring is based on a fundamental concept developed by Dr. Dan Siegel, the window of tolerance. Imagine a horizontal band like a riverbed. When you flow within this riverbed, you are in your window of tolerance. You can manage emotions. You can feel sadness or joy without losing control. You can think and feel at the same time. This is where life happens. If the water rises too high and overflows above, you enter hyperarousal, the flood. Here is anxiety, uncontrolled rage, panic, impulsivity. It is too much. If the water dries up or freezes, you drop to hyperarousal, the drought. Here is depression, dissociation, emptiness, the winter we just left. Your current problem is that, due to trauma, your window of tolerance, your riverbed, has become very, very narrow. It is a tiny stream. Any small drop of stress, an email from the boss, a loud noise, a sad memory, causes you to immediately overflow into anxiety, hyper, or disconnect into depression, hypo. You have no margin for error. You go from 0 to 100 in 1 second. The goal of spring is not to eliminate stress, but to widen the riverbed. We want to build a wider window of tolerance, capable of containing more water, more emotion, and more energy without overflowing. How do we widen the river without the excavator destroying us? By using two master tools of somatic therapy, titration and pendulation. Tool 1. Titration, the eyedropper. In chemistry, titration consists of mixing two reactive substances drop by drop so that they do not explode. If you pour all the acid at once, boom. If you do it drop by drop, it integrates. You often make the mistake of wanting to heal all at once. You decide that today you are going to face all your fears. You go to that crowded party even though it terrifies you. You have that difficult conversation with your partner without preparation. You force yourself to feel all the pain. That is pouring the acid all at once. That causes explosions, panic attacks, or implosions. Return to bed for 3 days. Titration is the art of testing the water with your toe and pulling back. It is taking life in small sips. In practice, if you have to face a difficult emotion, do it by the clock. Tell yourself, I am going to allow myself to feel this sadness for 3 minutes. No more. You set a timer. You cry. You write. You feel. When the alarm goes off, you get up, wash your face, put on music, and change activities. In social life, don't go to the 4-hour dinner. Go for a 20-minute coffee. And give yourself permission to leave if you feel your cup filling up. The golden rule of spring is, less is faster. If you go slow, your nervous system learns that it can handle the load. If you go fast, you confirm that the world is dangerous. We want micro-doses of activation. We want to touch the edge of anxiety and see that we survive. Tool 2. Pendulation, the swing. Pendulation is based on the natural rhythm of all living beings, contraction and expansion. The heart beats and relaxes. The lungs fill and empty. Trauma leaves you stuck at one of the extremes. Healing is regaining movement, the oscillation. The practice of pendulation consists of consciously moving your attention between a zone of pain, stress, and a zone of safety, calm. Imagine you have strong emotional pain in your chest, anxiety. Touch the pain. Focus your attention on that sensation in your chest for a few seconds. What color is it? Is it hot? Does it move? Just observe it. Withdrawal to safety. Before it becomes unbearable, deliberately move your attention to a part of your body that feels neutral or safe. It can be your big toe, your hands resting on your legs, or even an external object, your greenhouse from Chapter 2. Rest. Stay in the safe zone until your breathing calms down a bit. Return. Briefly go back to touch the sensation in your chest. Repeat. Oscillate back and forth. By doing this, you are sewing the fragmented parts of yourself together. You are teaching your brain that it can visit the pain and return from it. You teach it that pain is not a bottomless black hole, but a place that can be visited and left. You are creating a neural path between fear and safety. The challenge of spring thoughts. As your body thaws, your mind will also activate. And here is a trap. The mind will try to find a logical reason for your physical anxiety. You feel your heart racing, biological thawing, and your brain says, I must be nervous about something. Oh yes, I'm sure I'm going to get fired, or maybe my partner doesn't love me anymore. Your brain looks for an external threat to justify the internal sensation. It invents catastrophic stories to make sense of the physiological chaos. During spring, you must become a skeptic of your own thoughts. When a catastrophic thought assails you, ask yourself the body test. Is this thought an objective truth, or is it just the vibration of my nervous system looking for an excuse? Most of the time, it is the latter. They are mental weeds growing fast from the excess emotional fertilizer. Don't try to rip them all out. You will get exhausted. Just label them. This is a thawing thought, and let it pass like a leaf on that turbulent river. Closing the chapter, the promise of flow. I know this stage is exhausting. Sometimes you will wish to return to the insensitivity of winter. You will miss feeling nothing. It is normal. But remember this. Anesthesia is not peace. Anesthesia is the absence of life. What you are gaining now in exchange for this discomfort is access to the full human spectrum. Because the same channel through which anxiety enters is the channel through which joy enters. If you block pain, you block ecstasy. If you block fear, you block love. By widening your window of tolerance to withstand the spring storms, you are also creating the space to receive the summer sun. You are learning to be a bigger container. You are learning that you can tremble without breaking. You are learning that anxiety is not a stop sign, it is a work-in-progress sign. So, dear gardener, when you feel your hands shaking or your chest burning, do not run away. Anchor yourself, titrate, pendulate. Take just one drop of the experience and whisper to your frightened body, I know, it's intense, but it's just the ice breaking. We are flowing again. We are alive. Now that the river has begun to move, we will start to see what has been hidden under the snow all this time. Some things will be flowers, others will be weeds. Chapter 5. Distinguishing the weeds, intrusive thoughts, the mental jungle. Why your brain prefers fear over peace. Welcome to the garden in full bloom. In the last chapter, the ice broke. The water began to flow. You regained sensation, and with it, anxiety. Now looking at the landscape of your mind that was once white and silent under the snow, you realize that spring has brought more than just energy. It has brought an invasion. Where you expected to see neat rows of roses and tulips, what you find is a green, dense and tangled chaos. Thoughts are everywhere. They climb the walls of your consciousness, block the light and trip you up. They are fast, they are noisy, and most of the time they are cruel. You won't be able to keep this up. They definitely laughed at you in that meeting. Everyone notices you're broken. Something terrible is going to happen at any moment. Welcome to the season of weeds. Welcome to the reactivation of the cognitive mind. It is vital that you understand what is happening here so as not to fall into despair. When you were in winter, depression, freeze, your mind was shut down or slow. It was a dense fog. But now that there is energy in the system, the summer is approaching, that energy fuels everything. The spring sun does not discriminate. It nourishes the most delicate flower you planted intentionally and the most toxic weed that has been waiting for its opportunity for years, equally. Many trauma survivors reach this stage and panic. They think, my God, my mind is a horrible place. I am a negative, toxic and pessimistic person. If I were really healing, I would have positive thoughts. I should be repeating gratitude affirmations, but all I can think about is catastrophes. Let me free you from that guilt right now. You are not your thoughts, and you are certainly not the voluntary author of most of them. To navigate this jungle, we must first understand the biological machinery that produces it. We must talk about the negativity bias. Your brain is not an organ designed to make you happy. I regret breaking that illusion. Your brain is an organ designed with millions of years of evolutionary precision for one thing only, to keep you alive. And in the wild, being happy is irrelevant, but being alert is mandatory. Imagine two of your ancestors on the African savanna 100,000 years ago. Ancestor A is a relaxed optimist. He sees a bush moving and thinks, it must be the wind or a lovely bunny. He approaches to smell the flowers. Ancestor B is an anxious paranoiac. He looks at the same bush and thinks, it's a lion, it's going to eat me. He runs away and climbs a tree. It turns out that 99% of the time, it was just the wind. Ancestor B stressed over nothing, but once, just once, it was a lion. Ancestor A was eaten. Ancestor B survived and passed on his genes. You are the great-great-grandchild of Ancestor B. You are the descendant of a long line of successful paranoiacs. Your brain is a threat detection machine. It is a high-precision military radar that scans the horizon looking for problems, deficits, and dangers. Neuropsychologist Rick Hansen describes it with a brilliant phrase: the brain is Velcro for the negative and Teflon for the positive. A negative thought, "You are a failure," instantly adheres to your memory and your neural tissue. A positive thought, "You did a good job today," slides away and disappears in seconds unless you make a conscious effort to retain it. This is not a flaw in your personality. It is your factory setting for survival. Now add trauma to this equation. If the normal brain is already paranoid, the traumatized brain is a bunker in a state of war. Trauma recalibrates the threat detection system. If you lived in an environment where you were constantly criticized or where danger appeared out of nowhere, your brain learned that the only way to survive was to anticipate disaster. Those weeds that fill your head, the intrusive thoughts, the obsessive ruminations, the fierce self-criticism are not random garbage. They are failed protection attempts. When your mind tells you, "Don't trust anyone, they will betray you," it is trying to protect you from the surprise of pain. It believes that if it keeps you alert and distrustful, you won't be hurt again. When your mind tells you, "You are useless, don't try," it is trying to protect you from the shame of failure. It believes that if you don't try, you won't suffer. When your mind projects horror movies about the future, it is trying to prepare you for the worst, under the mistaken logic that if you imagine the catastrophe, you can prevent it. The problem, of course, is that these protection strategies are archaic and dysfunctional in the modern world. You are no longer on the savannah running from lions. You are in an office or at home, trying to lead a quiet life. But your alarm system continues to blare, drowning out any possibility of peace. This is where we make the fundamental mistake, the mistake that turns a messy garden into a prison of thorns: cognitive fusion. Cognitive fusion occurs when you cannot distinguish between the thought and reality. You have the thought, "I am a fraud." In cognitive fusion, you do not think, "I am having a thought about being a fraud." You think, "I am a fraud." You fuse with the idea. You take it as an absolute truth, as real as the chair you are sitting on. You don't question it. You react emotionally to it as if it were a fact. Your body secretes cortisol. Your stomach clenches, your posture slumps. You become the thought. Imagine you are wearing glasses with green lenses. Everything you see is green. The white wall is green. The blue sky is green. If you wear the glasses long enough, you forget you're wearing them. You start arguing with people, "The world is green, it's a fact, look at it." Cognitive fusion is forgetting you are wearing the trauma glasses. It is believing that your thoughts are an accurate description of the world, instead of being simply mental secretions from a frightened organ. Mental weeds have an insidious characteristic. They feed on your attention and your struggle. There is a classic experiment in psychology called the ironic process theory. If I tell you, "Please, for the next minute, don't think about a white bear. Think about whatever you want, but under no circumstances visualize a white bear." What happens? Your mind is flooded with white bears. To monitor that, you are not thinking about the bear. Your brain constantly has to evoke the image of the bear. The same thing happens with your intrusive thoughts. Thought, "What if I have a panic attack at the wedding?" You, "No, don't think that, get out, I have to be positive." Brain, "Okay, I'm monitoring to make sure we don't think about the panic attack at the wedding. Oops, I just thought about it to check." The more you try to violently pull out the weeds, the more you scatter their seeds. The struggle against the mind is the mind's fuel. If you try to argue with your inner critic, if you try to use logic to overcome irrational fear, you are lost. You are getting into the mud to fight a pig. You get dirty and the pig loves it. So what is the alternative? If we cannot believe our thoughts, fusion, and we also cannot fight them to eliminate them, suppression, are we condemned to live in this hostile jungle? No, there is a third way. We do not need to be the slave who obeys the thought, nor do we need to be the soldier who fights the thought. We need to become something different, something wiser, calmer, and much more powerful. We need to become the botanist. In the second part of this chapter, we will learn to put on the scientist's coat. We will learn to walk among the weeds without getting pricked. We will learn the subtle art of cognitive diffusion, which is not about silencing the mind, but about ceasing to take it so seriously. We will learn to look at the weed, recognize its name, and keep walking toward the roses. Get ready, because we are going to change your relationship with your own head forever. The art of pruning from exterminator to observing gardener. Imagine entering your mental garden. Until now you've entered wearing a chemical protection suit and a flamethrower, shouting, "Die, negative thoughts. Die, insecurities." That attitude is exhausting and, as we have seen, useless. The weeds always return, and in the process of burning them, you have also burned the flowers of your joy and spontaneity. Today we are going to change strategy. You are going to take off the exterminator suit and put on the hat of a Zen botanist. The botanist does not hate weeds. He understands that they are part of the ecosystem. He knows that some are invasive and toxic, and others are simply annoying. But his main tool is not poison, it is observation and labeling. Your task at this stage of spring is not to have a blank mind. That is for the dead. Your task is to develop the ability to notice versus be. This ability is based on creating a sacred space between the thinker, your automatic brain, and the observer, your true consciousness. You are the sky. Your thoughts are the weather. The weather changes constantly, storms, grey clouds, hurricanes, radiant sun, but the sky remains intact. The sky does not get wet from the rain or burned by the sun. The sky simply contains the weather. Until today, you believed you were the storm cloud. Now we are going to practice being the sky. Here are 3 advanced mental gardening tools for dealing with intrusive weeds without being strangled by them. Tool 1. Dispassionate labeling, the magic phrase. The next time a painful or anxious thought hits you, for example, "No one will ever love you like this," your instinct will be to fuse with it and feel immediate sadness. Instead, I want you to use the diffusion formula. Level 1. Fusion. No one will love me. Statement of fact. Level 2. Observation. I am having the thought that no one will love me. Recognition of the mental event. Level 3. The botanist. Ah, look, here is the old eternal loneliness story again. My mind is trying to scare me again. Do you notice the difference? The moment you add the phrase, "I am having the thought that," you create a safe distance. You are no longer the victim of the thought. You are the witness of the thought. By naming the story, e.g. the failure story, the guilt radio, the disaster news, you take away its power of absolute truth. It becomes a repetitive script that your mind plays like a scratched record. Practice. Imagine your negative thoughts are like those annoying telemarketers who call you during nap time. The phone rings, the intrusive thought. You. Hello? Thought. Hi. We're calling to tell you that your life is a disaster and everything will go wrong. You, the botanist. Ah, hello, it's you again, the catastrophe salesman. Thank you for the offer, but I'm not buying today. Goodbye. And you hang up. You don't argue with the salesman. You don't yell at him. You don't try to convince him that your life is not a disaster. That would be debating. You simply recognize who is calling, see that it is spam, and gently hang up, returning your attention to what you were doing. Tool 2. The pop-up ad metaphor. We live in the digital age, so let's use a metaphor we all understand. Imagine your mind is a powerful computer, and you are trying to work on an important project, your life, your values, your relationships, but your computer has a virus. Pop-up windows constantly jump onto the screen. They are blatant, colorful, and alarming ads. Danger, virus detected. You are ugly. Click here. Everyone hates you. What do you do when a pop-up appears on your computer? Do you open the window, read all the text, become distressed, and start responding to the ad? No. You look for the little X in the corner and close it. Sometimes 3 appear in a row. You close, close, close. You keep working. You don't get angry at the computer. You know it's a software glitch. Your intrusive thoughts are biological pop-ups. They are neuronal spam. When one appears, you're going to make a fool of yourself, visualize it mentally as an ugly, flashing internet window, and visualize your mental finger pressing the X. You don't need to analyze the content of the spam. You don't need to wonder, why did this ad for male enhancement come up? It's just random algorithm garbage. Close it and move on. Your attention is the computer mouse. You decide where you click. You can click on fear, or you can click on breath. Toll 3. Thanking the drunk bodyguard. Sometimes the weeds are persistent. The fear is very intense. In those cases, closing the window does not work because it immediately reopens. Here we need an approach of radical compassion. Remember what we said in part 1. Your brain does this to protect you. It is a defense mechanism, only it is poorly calibrated. Imagine your alarm system, amygdala, is a very loyal, very strong bodyguard, but he is completely drunk and a little blind. He loves you very much. He wants you to be safe. But because he is drunk, he sees a pizza delivery guy and thinks he is a ninja assassin, so he pulls out his gun and yells at you, "Watch out! Get down!" Panic attack. You can't hate the bodyguard. He thinks he is saving your life. If you yell at him, he will get more nervous. You have to treat him firmly and kindly. When the catastrophic thought comes, speak to that part of your brain. Thank you, mind. I know you are trying to protect me. I know you are afraid of me getting hurt like that time. I appreciate your work. But right now there are no lions. It's just a pizza delivery guy. I have control. You can rest. This changes the internal dynamic from a war to a collaboration. Validating the positive intention of the negative thought, "You want to protect me," usually deactivates its emotional charge. The weed stops having thorns. It stays there, but it no longer stings. The focus on flowers, selective watering. Finally, a garden is not defined only by the absence of weeds, but by the presence of flowers. If you spend the whole day fighting negative thoughts, how much time do you have left to plant positive ones? The botanist knows that the best way to control weeds is to plant flowers so dense and strong that they steal the light from the weeds. These flowers are your values. They are not feelings, "I want to feel happy." They are actions. "I want to be a loyal friend." "I want to be a brave creator." "I want to be a present parent." Every time you manage to detach from an intrusive thought, you have an amount of free energy. Use it immediately to water a flower. Do something small that is aligned with your values. Does your mind say you are useless? Detach from the thought and go wash the dishes. Value, order, care. Does your mind say you are alone? Detach and send a message to a friend. Value, connection. Don't wait for the weeds to disappear to start planting. Plant in the middle of the weeds. Over time, what you water grows. What you ignore dries up. Neuroplasticity works like this. The neural roads you use become highways. The ones you don't use become dirt roads and eventually disappear under the grass. Stop watering your fears with your obsessive attention. Start watering your actions. You will see that little by little, the proportion of the garden changes. The weeds will continue to appear from time to time because you have a human brain and that is what brains do, but it will no longer be an impenetrable jungle. It will just be an occasional nuisance in a garden that otherwise is full of life, color, and purpose. Chapter 6. The First Shoots, Small Acts of Courage, the Crab Paradox. The danger of going out into the world without a shell. You have reached a critical moment, a threshold. Until now, all the work we have done in this audiobook has been internal. You've been in your cave hibernating, built your imaginary greenhouse, learned to breathe to calm your vagus nerve, and become a botanist who observes their own thoughts without fighting them. All that has happened in the privacy of your mind, it has been solitary, silent, and safe work. But no one heals in a vacuum. We are gregarious mammals, biologically wired for connection. Sooner or later, the gardener has to open the greenhouse door. Sooner or later, you have to go back to work, see your friends, answer the phone, interact with your family. You have to go back to the world. And this is where you encounter the crab paradox. Think about how a crab or lobster grows. These animals live inside a rigid, hard armor that protects them from predators. But the shell does not grow. The animal inside does. There comes a time when the crab feels tight, suffocated by its own defense. To grow, it has to do something that goes against every survival instinct. It has to hide under a rock, break its own armor, and shed it. For a period of time, while the new, larger shell forms, the crab is completely soft. It is a pink, tender mass. If a predator finds it at that moment, it has no defense. If it hits a rock, it gets injured. It is its moment of maximum vulnerability. But without going through this soft skin phase, no growth is possible. It would die suffocated inside its old structure. You are currently in that soft skin phase. You have let go of the old defenses of denial, dissociation, or constant rage. You are starting to feel again. Your first green shoots are peeking out. They are bright green, full of life, but they are incredibly fragile. If someone steps on them now, the damage will be immense. The mistake that almost all trauma survivors make at this stage is trying to put on the old armor to go out. You tell yourself, okay, I'm tender and scared inside, but I can't let anyone see it. I'm going to pretend I'm the same as always. I'm going to be the efficient employee, the perfect mother, the fun friend. I'm going to put on the I'm fine mask. This is a disaster for your nervous system. Why? Because the mask weighs tons. Your vital energy, that small amount of fuel you manage to recover during winter, is completely spent on maintaining the fade. Imagine you've just had major abdominal surgery. The wound is healing, but you still have stitches. Would you think of putting on a tight corset and going out to run a marathon just so people wouldn't know you had surgery? No. You would walk slowly. You would protect your belly with your hands. You would say, I can't lift anything heavy today. However, emotionally, we do the opposite. We put on the corset. We smile when we want to cry. We say yes when we want to say no. And at the end of the day, we come home collapsed, not because of the social interaction itself, but because of the titanic effort of the performance. Neuroscience calls this neuroceptive dissonance. Your body feels fear and fragility, internal truth, but your face shows security and joy, external lie. This disconnection between what you feel and what you show is an alarm signal for your brain. Your brain thinks, if I have to lie so much, the environment must be very dangerous. And paradoxically, the more you pretend to be okay, the more insecure you feel inside. So, what is the solution? Should we go out crying and tell the supermarket cashier about our traumas? Should we be an open wound walking around? Absolutely no. That would be flooding, and as we saw in Chapter 4, flooding is re-traumatizing. The middle solution, the path of the wise gardener, is called micro-vulnerability. Micro-vulnerability is the art of showing a small piece of your truth in a controlled way to selected people. It is removing the mask just a centimeter to let the air in, without ripping it off completely. Instead of saying, I'm great, everything's perfect, the total mask, or I want to die, my life is hell, the total overflow, micro-vulnerability sounds like this. The truth is, I'm going through a bit of a low patch, so I'll take things slower today. Thanks for the invitation, but right now I need more rest than usual. I'm going through a process of change, and I feel a little sensitive today. Notice what these phrases do. They don't give gruesome details. They don't force the other person to be your therapist, but they are true. By telling the truth, you align your internal world with your external world. Your nervous system sighs with relief. Phew, I don't have to pretend. I can be myself, even if that myself is a little broken today. These are the first shoots. They are not giant sequoias of strength. They are small blades of grass that say, here I am soft, I am growing. The great fear, of course, is rejection. Your mind screams at you, if you show them you are weak, they will eat you. You will be fired. They will stop loving you. That is the ancestral fear of the savannah. But I want you to consider an alternative possibility, something psychologists call the pratfall effect, or error effect. Studies show that people who appear perfect and invulnerable generate distrust and distance. We admire them, but we don't connect with them. On the other hand, when a competent person admits a mistake, shows a weakness, or confesses to being nervous, our empathy for that person skyrockets. We like them more. We trust them more. Why? Because they are human. Because we see our own fragility reflected in theirs, and we don't feel judged. By daring to show your soft skin, You are performing an act of service. You are giving others permission to also put down their heavy armor. And this is a gigantic but not everyone deserves to see your shoots. There are predators in the garden. There are people who, if they see a flower being born, will step on it through carelessness or malice. There are tyrannical bosses, critical relatives, or narcissistic friends who will use your vulnerability against you. This is where the concept of just being authentic becomes dangerous if not combined with wisdom. Authenticity without protection is recklessness. A garden without fences is a free buffet for pests. For your first shoots to survive, you need more than just sun and water. You need a containment structure. You desperately need to learn about boundaries, and that brings us to the second part of this chapter. Because courage is not just opening up, courage is also daring to close the door to those who do not deserve to enter. Protection protocols, the art of the velvet rope. If the first part of courage is daring to be soft, the second part is daring to be firm. Visualize your mental garden. In the center are those soft green shoots we just mentioned, your new self-esteem, your desire for calm, your burgeoning joy. They are precious, they are sacred. Now look at the perimeter of your garden. What is it like? Is it an open field where anyone can enter, throw trash, walk their dog, and pull out whatever they want? Or on the contrary, is it a concrete fortress with barbed wire, watchtowers, and snipers, where nobody enters and you die of loneliness inside? Most people with trauma oscillate between these two extremes. Porous boundaries, I can't say no, I merge with others, I people please. Or rigid boundaries, I isolate, cut relationships, I don't trust anyone. The goal of spring is to build what we will call the velvet rope. Imagine the entrance to an exclusive club or a VIP area in a museum. There are golden posts and a red velvet rope. There is a doorman, you. The fence is not aggressive. There is no barbed wire. You can see what's inside, but you can't pass without an invitation. The fence says, I see you, I respect you, but this space is reserved. You only enter if you comply with the house rules. Setting boundaries is the greatest act of courage you can perform at this stage, and I warn you, at first it will feel terrible. If you come from a history of trauma, especially relational or childhood trauma, you have likely developed a survival response called complacencia, in English, fawn response. Fawning is the forgotten fourth sibling of fight, flight, and freeze. It consists of trying to appease the threat by being helpful, agreeable, and submissive. If I am what you want me to be, you won't hurt me. For a people pleaser, saying no feels biologically dangerous. When you try to set a boundary, e.g., I can't go to your party, your body reacts as if you were insulting a mafia boss. Your hands sweat, you feel guilty, you expect imminent punishment. Your brain tells you, you're selfish, they're going to hate you. I want you to reframe this right now. Setting a boundary is not an act of rejection toward the other, it is an act of protection toward your shoots. Every time you say no to something that drains you, a social obligation, a favor you don't want to do, you are saying a resounding yes to your own healing. Imagine that every yes you give costs 1 gold coin of your vital energy. You have very few coins because you have just emerged from winter. If you hand out your coins to anyone who asks on the street, by the time you reach your garden to water your plants, you will be bankrupt. Your shoots will die of thirst. Being stingy with your energy at this stage is not selfishness, it is emergency resource management. Here are 3 protection protocols for installing your velvet rope without feeling too guilty. Protocol 1. The safety pause. People pleasers have an automatic yes. Can you help me with this? Yes, and then you regret it. Shall we meet on Friday? Sure, and then you want to cancel. The commitment is made before your brain has consulted your body. Your new act of courage is not to respond immediately. When someone asks you for something, your automatic phrase should be, let me check my schedule energy and I'll get back to you later. This buys time. In that interval, you go to your greenhouse and ask yourself the real question, do I have coins for this? If I do this, am I betraying myself? If the answer is no, then you communicate the boundary from a place of calm, not pressure. Protocol 2. The complete no. We have been taught that to say no, we need a valid excuse. I can't go because I have to take my aunt to the doctor. I can't do it because I'm sick. We lie because we believe our lack of desire is not a good enough reason. But at the velvet rope, "I don't want to" is a complete sentence. Your energy is yours. You don't have to justify to a judge why you don't want to lend it. Of course, to be socially kind, we can soften it, but without lying. "Thanks for thinking of me, but this week I don't have the bandwidth for any more commitments." Period. No detailed excuses that the other person can debate. Protocol 3. Relationship pruning, the concentric circle. This is the most painful. As your shoots grow and you change, you will notice that some people in your life no longer fit. Perhaps you had friends who benefited from your lack of boundaries. They loved that you were always available, that you were the shoulder to cry on, that you never complained. Now that you start saying no and prioritizing yourself, those people are going to get upset. They will tell you you've changed, you've become selfish, you're not the same anymore. Take it as a compliment. They are right. You are not the same anymore. You are someone who respects themselves. We call this social pruning. It doesn't mean you have to fight everyone and break friendships dramatically. It means that you reallocate people into concentric circles of access. Inner circle, VIP. People who have proven to be safe, who celebrate your boundaries and listen to your vulnerability without judgment. You show the shoots to these people. Middle circle, friends, acquaintances. People you hang out with but don't share your deep intimacy with. Outer circle. People who drain energy or are critical. You keep these people outside the fence. The act of courage here is tolerating the disappointment of others. You are going to disappoint people. It is inevitable. If you try not to disappoint anyone, you will disappoint yourself 100% of the time. The mantra for this protocol is, "I prefer the discomfort of setting a boundary than the resentment of having betrayed it." Because if you say yes when you want to say no, that yes turns into poison inside you. It turns into resentment, and resentment is acid for your roots. The water test, testing for safety. Finally, how do you know who deserves to enter the VIP circle? You test the waters. You dip a toe in the water. You share a small concern with a friend. How do they react? Do they immediately change the subject? Unsafe, emotional incapacity. Do they start talking about themselves? Unsafe, narcissism. Do they tell you, "Don't be silly," or "That's nothing"? Unsafe, invalidation. Or do they stop, look you in the eyes and say, "Wow, I'm sorry you're going through this, tell me more"? Safe. Look for the people who make your nervous system feel calm. Those are the sun for your garden. You are learning to be the guardian of your own ecosystem. At first you will feel strange, as if you were an imposter or a bad person. But observe your shoots. Observe how, by protecting them from the wind and others' footsteps, they start to grow faster. They start to gain strength. The stem becomes woody and resistant. That is the goal. Protect the fragile until it becomes strong. And believe me, you are going to need that strength. Because the sun is rising in the sky. The temperature is increasing. The gentle spring is giving way to something much more intense. Summer is approaching. And summer brings an energy that many of us have repressed for years for fear that it would be destructive, but which is the only force capable of truly changing your life. Chapter 7, Summer Storms, the Energy of Rage, the Sacred Volcano, Why Your Rage is Love in Disguise. Welcome to summer. If you expected this season to be all beach vacations, gentle breezes, and pina coladas, I have to correct your calendar. In the cycle of trauma healing, summer is the season of extreme heat. It is the season of high energy. And above all, it is the season for electrical storms. In the last chapter, we saw how your first shoots needed protection. You learned to set gentle boundaries. But as your nervous system wakes up more and more, you encounter a surprise. Beneath the sadness and beneath the anxiety, you have discovered something you may have been repressing for decades. Pure fury. Suddenly, things you once tolerated seem intolerable. You remember how you were treated in the past, and you don't feel pity. You feel like screaming. You look at the injustices of your current life and feel a volcanic heat rising in your throat. You feel a physical, tense, vibrant energy in your arms and jaw. You feel like hitting something, breaking plates, shouting, "Enough!" And this terrifies you. It terrifies you because we have been conditioned to believe that rage is a bad, toxic, or negative emotion, especially if you are a woman Or if you were the good child in the family, rage was forbidden to you. You were taught that getting angry is losing control. You were taught that anger destroys relationships. So when you feel this inner fire, your first reaction is to try to put it out. You swallow the scream. You tell yourself, calm down, don't be irrational, be zen. But today, in this almanac of resilience, we are going to rewrite your relationship with fire. I want you to listen carefully. Your rage is not the enemy. Your rage is the part of you that loves you the most. Think about it biologically. When does the fight response activate in an animal? An animal fights when something valuable is being threatened. A mother bear doesn't attack because she is evil. She attacks because she loves her cubs. A dog doesn't growl because it is toxic. It growls because you are invading its territory and it needs to protect its integrity. Rage is, fundamentally, your psyche's immune system. Just as a fever rises to kill a virus, rage rises to burn out an injustice or a boundary violation. If you didn't have the capacity to feel rage, you wouldn't have a survival instinct. If someone stepped on your foot and you didn't feel irritation, you wouldn't ask them to move, and your foot would break. Irritation is the signal that tells you, damage is occurring here, do something. The problem with trauma survivors is not that they have too much rage, it's that their rage is displaced in time. During the original trauma, when you were a child, or during that abusive relationship, you couldn't fight. The aggressor was too big, too powerful, or you depended on them to survive. Fighting would have been suicidal, so your body intelligently repressed the fight response. It stored that fire in an airtight basement and froze, winter. But energy doesn't disappear, it only stores itself. Now that you are in summer, now that you feel a little safer and thawed, the basement has opened. And all that unexpressed fight energy from the last 10, 20 or 30 years is bursting out at once. That's why your reaction seems disproportionate. Your partner leaves dirty dishes and you feel homicidal fury. You are not angry just about the dishes. You are angry about the dishes plus the 20 years of neglect you suffered in the past. The dishes are just the trigger that fires the loaded cannon. The danger here is not the emotion, but the interpretation. If you interpret this fire as I am a bad person, you will repress it again. And repressed rage does not die, it rots. It turns into bitterness, cynicism, psychosomatic illnesses, back pain, digestive problems, migraines, or depression. Depression often is just rage without enthusiasm, rage turned inward. But if instead you can look at that fire and say, welcome, I see that I finally respect myself enough to be angry about what was done to me, then alchemy occurs. Rage is high-octane fuel. Winter, depression, is a car without gas. Spring, anxiety, is a car with the engine revving but in neutral. Summer, rage, action, is a car in motion. This energy is the only force in the universe powerful enough to pull you out of the inertia of trauma. It is the force that allows you to quit that job you hate. It is the force that allows you to block your abusive ex's phone number. It is the force that allows you to look the person who intimidates you in the eye and hold the gaze. We need this fire, but, like any fire, if it runs unchecked, it burns down the house. If it is repressed, the boiler explodes. The secret of summer is learning to be a fire engineer. We need to channel that explosion through safe pipes so that it moves the pistons of your life instead of destroying your garden. In the second part of this chapter, we will learn the crucial difference between rage and aggression, and I will give you somatic tools to get the volcano out of your body without hurting anyone, including yourself. The combustion engine. From destruction to construction, we have established that feeling rage is healthy and necessary. It is a sign that your dignity has awakened. But now we have a practical problem. You have a nuclear reactor in your chest, and you live in an apartment with people you love. What do you do with all this energy? This is where we must make the most important distinction of this audiobook, the difference between rage and aggression. Rage is an emotion. It is a physiological sensation. Heat, tension, impulse. It is internal. It is morally neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It is energy. Aggression is a behavior. It is what you do with that energy. It is yelling, insulting, hitting, or manipulating. Aggression aims to harm or dominate the other. You can feel infinite rage without being aggressive for a single second, and you can be aggressive with passive-aggressive comments or coldness without feeling hot rage. The goal of summer is not to become aggressive. The goal is to become assertive with high energy. Assertiveness is educated rage. It is rage that has been to college. It is the ability to use that force to defend your territory without needing to burn down the neighboring village. But to reach serene assertiveness, you first have to drain the excess voltage. Remember, the body keeps the score. Your rage is not in your mind. It is in your trapezius muscles, in your hands, in your jaw. It is accumulated static electricity. You cannot think your rage away. You have to move it. Here are 3 anger hygiene practices to safely process summer storms. 1. Somatic discharge, letting the animal out. We often try to talk about our rage in therapy or with friends. That helps to understand it, but it doesn't get it out of the body. For the body, rage is an impulse for physical movement, hitting, pushing, running. If you don't complete the movement, the stress cycle stays open. You need a safe space to be physically violent against inanimate objects designed for it. The silent scream. If you can't yell at home, sit in the car, it's a great soundproof booth, or bury your face in a pillow. Scream from your stomach, not your throat. Let out the guttural, ugly, deep sound. That sound is the pain exiting. Pushing the wall. This is a classic bioenergetics exercise. Stand facing a solid wall. Put your hands on it, one leg back and one forward. Push with all your might, as if you want to move the building. Tense all your muscles. Growl if necessary. Feel the strength in your arms. Do it until you shake. This tells your brain, I am strong. I can exert force. I am not helpless. Wringing the towel. Take a large bath towel. Imagine it is the neck of the situation, or person that hurt you. Wring it with all your fury. Use your biceps. It is a safe way to release the impulse to do harm without harming anyone. When you finish these exercises, you will notice something curious. The rage disappears and often gives way to crying or deep calm. You have burned the fuel. Now you can think clearly. 2. The sacred no. Rage is the guardian of the no. During winter and spring, you may have learned to say no timidly. In summer, your no becomes solid as a rock. Use the energy of rage to reinforce your boundaries. When someone tries to manipulate you, connect with that heat in your stomach. Use that heat to give firmness to your voice. You don't need to shout. True authority does not shout. True authority is immovable. Think of a centennial oak. It doesn't attack anyone, but if you crash into it, you break, not the oak. Your rage turns you into that oak. It gives you gravity. I will not allow you to speak to me like that. This is over. No. Said with the energy of summer, these phrases are not requests. They are sentences. 3. Sublimation, the art of creative warfare. The highest form of using rage is to turn it into work. Rage is an energy of doing. It is creative. Are you furious at your ex? Use that fury to get into the best physical shape of your life. Not for him, her, but to prove to yourself that you are still alive. Are you furious at your boss? Use that fury to study at night, update your CV and get a better job. Are you furious at the political, social system? Write, organize, create art that denounces. Revenge is a dish best served cold, they say. But the best revenge is not destroying the other person. The best revenge is having a spectacular life despite what they did to you. Use your rage as the fuel to build that life. Every time you feel the fire, think, I am going to use this brick of hatred to build my castle. The danger of burning out, the anger addiction. A final warning for the summer gardener. Rage is addictive. Adrenaline and cortisol make you feel powerful, especially if you have spent a long time feeling powerless. Winter. It is easy to get stuck in summer. It is easy to become a person who is permanently angry, looking for a fight, taking offense at everything, believing themselves to be a justice warrior when they are really just a conflict addict. If you live always in the fire, your garden will burn. Rage is a transitional tool, not a place of residence. You use it to break the chains. You use it to get out of the hole. You use it to set the fence. But once you are safe, once the threat has passed, you must let go of the flamethrower. You must learn to cool down. You must remember that the ultimate goal is not perpetual war, but secure peace. Rage leads you to freedom, but it does not give you happiness. Happiness comes later when the smoke clears. So for today, honor your fire. Do not fear it. Feel it burn. Use it to warm your home and keep the wolves away. You are the guardian of your own life, and the guardian has awakened. Chapter 8. Cross-Pollination, the Power of the Tribe. The Myth of the Lone Wolf. Why Self-Healing Has a Limit. We have come a long way. You have survived the paralyzing cold of winter. You have navigated the turbulent waters of spring. You have learned to use the fire of your rage in summer to mark your territory. Now you are standing in your garden, strong, with high fences and tools in hand. You feel capable. You feel autonomous. And this is where you run the risk of falling into the most seductive trap of modern self-help: hyper-independence. It is likely that due to your history, you have concluded that the only person you can trust is yourself. If you were hurt in the past, if those who should have cared for you did not, your brain recorded a fiery lesson. Needing others is dangerous. Dependence is weakness. If I want to be safe, I shouldn't need anything from anyone. You have become a fortress of one. You wear your autonomy like a badge of honor. I don't ask for help. I fix it myself. I don't bother anyone. But I have a hard and liberating piece of news for you. No one heals alone. You can do a lot of work alone, regulating your breath, observing your thoughts, journaling. But there is a glass ceiling you will never break without help. Why? Because biologically, you are not a lone wolf. You are a primate. You are a herd mammal. Your nervous system is not designed to function in a vacuum. It is designed to synchronize with other nervous systems. Let's go back to the garden. Imagine you have the strongest, healthiest tree in the world. It has good soil, water, and sun, but it is enclosed in an airtight glass dome. No wind gets in, no insects get in, no other trees are nearby. That tree can grow, yes, but it will never bear fruit. For fruit to appear, there must be pollination. The pollen of one flower must travel to another. A genetic and energetic exchange is needed. The chaos of external life is needed. In neuroscience terms, this is called co-regulation. When you are a baby, you don't know how to calm yourself down. If you cry, you need a calm adult to hold you. The adult's slow heart rate, their soft voice, and warm skin send a signal to your little body. We are safe. Your nervous system borrows the adult's calm. If you didn't receive enough co-regulation as a child, or if your bonds were a source of terror instead of calm, you learn to self-regulate rigidly or to dissociate. But the biological truth persists. A regulated nervous system has the power to calm a dysregulated nervous system. You've surely felt it. There are people who, just by walking into the room, make you tense. Their stress is contagious. And there are people, perhaps few, who just by sitting next to you and breathing, make your shoulders drop an inch. They don't need to say anything clever. Their mere presence is an anchor. The goal of this chapter is for you to understand that seeking this connection is not a retreat in your independence. It is the next level of your evolution. Trauma disconnects you, isolates you in pain. Healing reconnects you, joins you to humanity. Hyperindependence is not strength. It is a trauma response. It is a defense mechanism that says, I will reject everyone before they can reject me. It is the wounded child saying, I can do it myself, while tears stream down their face. Emerging from this isolation is scary. It requires lowering the drawbridge of that fortress you built in the previous chapters. It requires admitting a need. I feel lonely. I need a hug. I can't do this alone. These phrases, said to the right person, are pure medicine. They break the spell of shame. Because trauma convinces you that you are different, that you are broken, that you are too complicated to be loved. But when you risk connecting and discover that others feel the same way, or that they are willing to hold you, the trauma loses its power. Nature teaches us this with the phenomenon of the mycelial network. In a forest, trees do not ruthlessly compete with each other. Underground, their roots are connected by an immense network of fungi, mycelium. Through this network, trees pass nutrients to each other. If one tree is sick or in the shade, neighboring trees send it sugar through the roots to help it survive. They know at a cellular level that the health of the forest depends on the health of each individual. You have been trying to be a tree without connected roots. You have been trying to survive on your own sugar reserves. It is exhausting. And it is unnecessary. It's time to connect to the network. It's time to stop being an armored me and start being part of a safe we. But of course, the million-dollar question is, with whom? How do I know who is safe if my radar is broken? That is the right question. We cannot connect with just anyone. Indiscriminate pollination brings pests. We need to learn to identify the safe bees and distinguish them from the wasps. In the second part of this chapter, we will talk about the anatomy of a safe tribe and how to build brick by brick. Relationships that heal instead of harm. Safety detectors, how to find your hive. You have accepted, even reluctantly, that you need others, but your body tenses at the idea. You have scars that prove that others are the source of pain, not the cure. How do you open up without putting yourself in danger? The answer is not blind trust. That is naivete. The answer is gradual and verified trust. We are going to create a filtering system for your garden. We are not going to leave the door wide open. We are going to install a peephole. 1. Identifying the relational traffic lights. To build your tribe, you need to evaluate the people around you and the new ones you meet based on how your nervous system reacts to them, not on how much you like them or how long you've known them. Red people, danger drainage. These are people who, after being with them, you feel exhausted, confused, or less than. They are people who invalidate your feelings, you're too sensitive, who compete with you, who only talk about themselves, or who systematically violate your boundaries. Action. With these people, we keep the velvet rope from Chapter 6 tightly closed. They are not necessarily bad people, but they are not safe for your tender shoots. Yellow people, caution fun. They are great for going to the movies, having a drink, talking about sports or fashion. But they lack the capacity for emotional depth. If you tell them a problem, they change the subject or give superficial advice. Cheer up. Action. Enjoy them for what they are, but don't expect them to co-regulate you. Don't ask for pears from an olive tree. Keep them in the outer garden. Green people, safety, nutrients. These are the gems. How do you recognize them? Active listening. They look you in the eyes. They put away their phones. They don't interrupt you to tell their story. Validation. They say things like, "It makes sense that you feel that way." They don't try to fix you, they just accompany you. Consistency. Their actions match their words. If they say they'll be there, they are. The body test. When you are with them, your breathing becomes deeper and your stomach relaxes. You feel at home. Your mission in this late summer is to actively seek out green people. Maybe you only have one. Maybe you don't have any yet. If you don't have any, your number one priority is to find them. It can be a therapist, the safest way to start, a support group, or a new community based on shared interests. 2. The concept of glimmers. Deb Dana, an expert in Polyvagal Theory, talks about glimmers as the opposite of triggers. A trigger is a danger signal that takes you back to the traumatic past. A glimmer is a micro-signal of safety and connection that anchors you in the present. To pollinate your life, you don't need to have deep, tearful 4-hour conversations every day. That is unsustainable. What you need is to collect micro-moments of connection, a genuine smile with the supermarket cashier, petting a neighbor's dog and chatting for 2 minutes about the weather, a text message from a friend that says, "I saw this and thought of you," sharing a laugh with a co-worker. These moments seem trivial, but for your nervous system they are vitamins. Every small safe interaction tells your primitive brain, "The herd accepts me. I am not being expelled. I am safe." Start collecting glimmers as if they were gold coins. The more you accumulate, the richer your sense of belonging will be. 3. From victim to wounded healer, reciprocity. Here we reach the most beautiful part of cross-pollination. So far we have talked about what you need to receive, safety, support, validation. But real connection is a two-way street. One of the fastest ways to get out of the pit of trauma is to be useful to others. When you help someone, when you listen to a friend, when you offer your experience to guide another who is one step behind you, your identity changes. You stop being the victim, someone things happen to, and become the survivor guide, someone who has value to give. Social kintsugi works like this. You show your golden cracks. Someone sees them and says, "I have a crack there too." And in that moment, the shame of both disappears. Your cracks become the soldering point of an indestructible friendship. You don't have to be totally cured to be a good friend or a good community member. In fact, your wound is your credential. Your ability to understand pain makes you more empathetic, more patient, and kinder than someone who has never suffered. Your darkness has given you superpowers of connection if you dare to use them. Closing the summer. As this chapter ends, the summer sun begins to set. The frantic energy of action and connection begins to soften. You have learned to defend yourself, and you have learned to connect. You have recovered your me, and you have found your we. Look around you. The garden is full. The fruits have grown thanks to that intense sun and the help of the bees. Now the branches are heavy. The air becomes cooler and crisper. The light turns golden. Autumn is approaching. Autumn is the season of the harvest. It is the time to gather everything we have learned, to separate the wheat from the chaff, and to integrate this new version of yourself into something solid and lasting. It is the time of the final kintsugi. You are no longer the person who froze in winter, but you are not the person you were before the trauma either. You are something new. You are more complex. Chapter 9. The Golden Harvest, Kintsugi and Post-Traumatic Growth. The Alchemy of the Scar. Why you don't want to go back to who you were. Welcome to autumn. The air has changed. Do you feel it? The sticky humidity and static electricity of the summer storms have dissipated. The light is no longer that blinding white that scorched the retina at noon. Now it is a golden, oblique light that gently filters through the branches and lengthens the shadows. The frantic pace of growth and defense is over. The garden is calm, but it is a calmness very different from the dead silence of the winter with which we began this journey. This is the calm of fulfillment. You look around and see the result of all your work. Heavy fruits hang from the branches. Leaves are beginning to change color, turning ochre and red. And above all, there is a change in you, the gardener. Your hands are calloused, your skin weathered by the sun and wind. You are no longer the terrified novice who looked at the ice without knowing what to do. You are a veteran. However, upon reaching this stage, it is very common to feel a pang of melancholy. Often, when the acute pain disappears, we are met with a phantom desire, a thought that creeps into the mind. I wish I could go back to being the person I was before all this happened. I wish I could erase what happened and regain my innocence. It is a human and understandable desire. We want to undo the damage. We want the vessel to have never broken. But autumn holds a hard and beautiful lesson for us. There is no going back. And if you are brave, you will realize that you wouldn't want to go back anyway. To understand this, we must mentally travel to 15th century Japan to learn the story of Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa. Legend has it that the shogun had a favorite tea bowl, an exquisite piece of Chinese ceramics. One day, the bowl fell and broke into several pieces. Desolate, the shogun sent the fragments to China to be repaired. Months later, the bowl returned, but the repair was horrible. They had joined the pieces with ugly, rusted metal staples. The bowl could be used for drinking, yes, but its beauty had died. It looked like a ceramic Frankenstein. The dissatisfied shogun challenged his Japanese artisans to find a better solution. The artisans sought a way to repair the break without hiding it, but making it beautiful. They mixed lacquer resin with pure gold powder. They joined the cracks with this golden glue. When the shogun saw the result, he was speechless. The bowl was not just repaired, it was infinitely more beautiful than the original. The gold veins ran through the ceramic like rivers of light. The breakage was no longer a defect. It was the piece's story. It was its unique identity. Thus, the art of kintsugi, or kintsukuroi, repair with gold, was born. You are that bowl. The trauma was the fall. Winter was the moment you lay shattered on the floor. Spring and summer were the process of gathering the fragments and cleaning them. And now, in autumn, we are applying the gold. What is gold in psychological terms? Gold is consciousness. Gold is the work you've done in the previous chapters: compassion, nervous system regulation, boundaries, courage. If you had ignored your trauma, using drugs, denial, or cynicism, you would have used metal staples. You would have remained functional but bitter, leaky, ugly inside. But you didn't do that. You did the hard work. You have filled your cracks with wisdom. This leads us to the scientific concept that defines this chapter: post-traumatic growth, PTG. For decades, psychology focused only on post-traumatic stress, the damage. They studied how trauma broke us. But in the 90s, psychologists Tedeschi and Calhoun noticed something fascinating. Many people who had gone through hell cancer, wars, loss of children, accidents, not only recovered, returned to baseline, but surpassed their previous level of functioning and well-being. They made an evolutionary leap. Imagine your life is a house. Trauma is an earthquake that destroys the house. The roof falls in, the walls break. Resilience, as popularly understood, would be rebuilding the house exactly as it was before. Same blueprints, same furniture, returning to normal. Post-traumatic growth is different. While you are among the rubble, you realize that the foundations of the old house were not that solid. You realize you didn't like the room layout. You realize the view was blocked by unnecessary walls. So since you have to build again, you decide to build a different house. One with deeper, earthquake-proof foundations. One with bigger windows. A house where maybe fewer people fit, but where life is better. You are not the same person as before the trauma, and thank goodness you are not. The person before was innocent, yes, but perhaps naive. Perhaps they lived on autopilot. Perhaps they took important things for granted. Perhaps they based their self-esteem on the approval of others. The person you are today has scars. They limp a little when the weather changes. But the person you are today is indestructible in a new sense. You know you can survive winter, because you already have. You know how to distinguish false friends from true ones. You know that pain doesn't kill you. The scar is not a reminder that you were hurt. That is the victim's view. For the autumn gardener, the scar is a reminder that you survived. It is a map of your resilience. It is the physical proof that your body and mind have the miraculous capacity to reweave themselves. Kintsugi teaches us that the breakage is part of the object's history, not the end of its story. The repaired vessel is valued more than the new one because it has character. You now have character. You have depth. You have gravity. In this first part of autumn, I want you to stop chasing the ghost of your past self. Let it go. Honor that person you were. They did the best they could with the tools they had. But don't try to resurrect them. Embrace the present self. Embrace your golden veins. Because now we are going to take inventory. We are going to walk through the orchard and see exactly what fruits this earthquake has produced. You will be surprised to discover that among the rubble, things have grown that could never have grown in your perfect former life. In the second part, we will talk about the 5 fruits of post-traumatic growth. We are going to name your gains. The 5 fruits, the inventory of your new wealth. We have accepted that we are a vessel repaired with gold. We have stopped mourning the old house and are admiring the blueprints of the new one. But let's be specific. What exactly do we gain in exchange for so much suffering? Is the price paid worth it? No one chooses trauma. If you could return the ticket, you would. But once the journey has happened, you have the right to keep the souvenirs. You have the right to claim the spoils of war. Post-traumatic growth researchers have identified 5 specific areas where people often experience profound positive changes after a crisis. I call them the 5 fruits of autumn. I want you to listen to this list and see which of these fruits are already ripening in your garden. Maybe not all are ready, maybe some are still green, but you are sure to recognize the taste of more than one. Fruit 1, personal strength, tempered steel. The first fruit is the discovery of a strength you didn't know you had. Before the trauma, you were probably afraid of many things. You thought, if X happened to me, I would die. I couldn't bear it. Well, X happened to you. Or Y happened, which was worse. And here you are, listening to this, breathing. You have discovered the fundamental truth about yourself. You are stronger than you thought. This is not a gym strength of swollen muscles. It is tempered steel strength. Steel is tempered by putting it in fire and then in ice water, over and over. That is exactly what has happened to you, summer and winter. Now you walk through life with a silent confidence. Small everyday problems, traffic jam, a bad comment, a mistake at work, no longer crush you. You look at them and think, please, I've survived a nuclear winter. This is a breeze. You have lost the fear of life because you have looked death, symbolic or literal, in the eye and haven't blinked. That is the fruit of paradoxical invulnerability. Having been completely violated, you know that nothing can fully destroy you. Fruit 2. Change in relationships. The distilled tribe. We talked about this in the previous chapter, but now it consolidates as a permanent truth. Trauma acts as a high-efficiency filter. Before, you had many superficial relationships based on convenience, appearance, or fun. When the ship sank, many of those people jumped into the lifeboats and left you alone. That hurt. It hurt a lot, but the ones who stayed are the ones who stayed, or the ones you found while swimming among the wreckage. Those bonds are now indestructible. You have learned to value authenticity over popularity. You are no longer interested in impressing anyone at a party. You are interested in having real conversations at 3 in the morning about what truly matters. You have developed a deeper compassion for the suffering of others. When someone tells you their pain, you don't look at the clock. You listen from your own scar. You have become a wounded healer. Your presence alone validates others. Your circle is smaller, yes, but it is a circle of solid gold. Fruit 3. Appreciation for life. High-definition vision. This is the sweetest fruit. When you have been close to losing everything, your health, your sanity, your life, a loved one, you stop taking normal for granted. Before, a morning coffee was just caffeine to wake up. Now you sit with the hot cup in your hands and genuinely smell it. You feel the warmth. You watch the steam rise against the light, and a gratitude that makes you cry floods you. I am here. I can smell this. I am alive. Trauma cleans the windows of perception. You see colors brighter. You enjoy a child's laughter more. You stop to watch a sunset that you would have ignored before while looking at your phone. You live in high definition. Normal people worry about the future or the past. You who have seen how the future can disappear in a second have learned to devour the present. You have learned that the ordinary moment is, in reality, extraordinary. This capacity for renewed wonder is the gift that winter left you. Only someone who has been very hungry knows what bread truly tastes like. Fruit 4. New possibilities, the route change. Often trauma slams a door shut. You are fired, you get divorced, you get injured. That path is over. For a long time you stayed hitting that closed door, screaming. But now, in autumn, you turn around, and you see that there is an open window or a side path that you never would have taken if the main door had been open. Perhaps the trauma forced you to change careers, and now you do something you love more. Perhaps it forced you to leave a city that made you sick. Perhaps it forced you to prioritize your health. Many people, years after a crisis, say the forbidden phrase, "I'm not glad it happened, but if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have this life." You have rewritten your script. You stop being the supporting actor in others' lives to be the director and protagonist of your own. Trauma broke your chains of what you should do and freed you to do what you want to do. Fruit 5. Spiritual and existential change, meaning. Finally, the deepest fruit. Trauma throws us headlong into the big questions. Why are we here? What is the meaning of suffering? Before, you lived on the surface. Now you live in the deep. You have had to build your own philosophy so as not to go crazy. For some, this means a renewed religious connection. For others, it is a connection with nature, with art, or with service to others. You have stopped chasing success, money, fame, status, and have started chasing meaning. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." You have found your why, or you are building it. You know that your pain was not in vain if you can use it for something. If you can use your experience to help others, to create beauty, to be kinder, then suffering transforms into sacrifice, from the Latin sacrum facere, to make sacred. You have alchemized the lead of your pain into the gold of your purpose. The harvest ritual. Look at your basket. Look at these 5 fruits. Strength, true tribe, gratitude, new paths, meaning. They are yours. No one can take them from you. You earned them on the battlefield. It is possible that listening to this you think, I don't have all those fruits yet, I'm still hurting. That is okay, autumn is long. Some fruits ripen late. Kintsugi takes time. The gold has to dry. Don't pressure yourself to feel gratitude if you still feel rage. Everything has its time, but know that this is what awaits you. Know that human biology and psychology are designed for this. We are not designed only to survive, we are designed to evolve. Now you have a responsibility with this harvest. You cannot let it rot. You have to store it, process it, and prepare it for the future. Because the cycle of the seasons does not stop. Autumn will inevitably give way to another winter. It won't be a traumatic winter like the previous one. It will be a seasonal, natural winter. But this time, it will be different. This time, it won't catch you naked and exposed. This time you have a full pantry. You have a solid refuge. You have firewood. And you have the golden memory that you are capable of turning cracks into art. Chapter 10. The Falling of the Leaves, Letting Go to Prepare. The Art of Dying Well, Saying Goodbye to Who You Were. We have reached the end of the calendar. Look around one last time in this late autumn. The trees in your inner garden, those you cared for during the drought, protected from the storms, and whose fruits you have just harvested, are now doing something that seems sad, yet is an act of supreme biological intelligence. They are undressing. The golden and red leaves fall to the ground. The branches are exposed, skeletal and dark against the grey sky. The air has turned cold again. In our culture, we associate the falling of leaves with death, with an ending, with loss. And as traumatized human beings, we hate loss. We cling to everything we have because it cost us so much to get. However, a tree does not lose its leaves because it is dying or because it is sad. A tree deliberately sheds its leaves so it won't die in the winter that is coming. If an oak kept its wide, beautiful leaves during a snowstorm, the snow would accumulate on them. The weight would be so immense that the branches would break. The tree would die crushed by its own beauty, retained out of season. To survive the cycle, the tree must lighten its load. It must reduce its surface area, it must concentrate all its sap in the core, and let go of the peripheral. You are at that moment, you have harvested the gold of your learning, Chapter 9. But now to close the cycle and be ready for what comes next. You have to let go of something that has been your most faithful companion throughout this process. Something that has defined, protected, and given you a sense of purpose, but which now weighs too much for the next stage. You have to let go of your identity as a victim, and even your identity as a patient. This is the hardest thing I will ask of you in the entire book. When trauma hits, the victim identity is necessary. It is a shield that says, "Don't blame me, I was hurt." It gives us validation. It allows us to receive care. Then we transition to the identity of survivor, or patient in recovery. Our life revolves around healing. We read trauma books, like this one. We go to therapy. We talk about our symptoms. Healing becomes our full-time job. It becomes who we are. Hi, I'm X, and I'm a complex trauma survivor. But there comes a time, and that time is now, when that identity stops being a shield and becomes a cage, or a dead leaf that won't drop. If you continue clinging to the idea that you are broken and repairing forever, you will never live. You will always be a construction project, never an inhabited home. The final autumn is the moment of the abscission zone. In botany, before the leaf falls, the tree creates a cork scar between the branch and the leaf stem. It closes the ducts. It ensures that when the leaf falls, there isn't an open wound for bacteria to enter. The leaf falls only when the branch is sealed. You have done the work. You have sealed your wounds with Kintsugi gold. You no longer need the victim leaf to protect yourself. You no longer need to define yourself by what happened to you. What happened to you is a historical fact, yes, but it is no longer your current direction. It's time to let go of other dry leaves that no longer fit into your new life. Old friendships, those people who only wanted you when you were submissive or in crisis. Now that you are strong and set boundaries, they don't fit. Let them fall. Old dreams. Maybe before the trauma you wanted to be one thing, and now you realize that no longer resonates with you. It is not a failure to change course. It is adaptation. Let go of the expectation of who you should have been. Resentment. Resentment was useful in the summer as rage fuel. But resentment in winter is heavy and cold. You no longer need to hate your aggressors to be safe from them. You are safe because you have boundaries, not because you have hate. Hate keeps you tied to them. Letting go of resentment is not forgiving them. It is freeing yourself. I want to invite you to perform a farewell ritual. Write a letter to your traumatized self, to that version of you that held the pain for years. Tell it, thank you for enduring the ice, thank you for dissociating to survive, thank you for your rage. You did an incredible job keeping me alive, but now I take over. We no longer need to be on guard 24 hours. You can rest. Imagine that identity is a dry leaf. Look at it, thank it for its service, and gently blow. Watch it fall to the ground to become compost. Now you are naked, like the tree in November. Without the victim label, without the urgency of rage, without the euphoria of spring. Just you, your solid trunk, your deep roots, your integrated history. It's scary, I know. Who are you if you are not your pain? You are the space where life happens, you are the gardener, and you are ready for the final test, because the air is getting colder, the cycle is about to close and begin again. And the question that terrifies you is, what if I fall again? What if all this was an illusion and winter kills me this time? In the second part, we will answer that question. I will give you the map for the future. I will teach you why you will never, ever return to the same place. The Ascending Spiral and the Emergency Kit. Here we are at the end of the book, and I am going to tell you the truth that most self-help books hide in the fine print. Winter will return. You will have bad days. You will have bad weeks. Maybe in a month or a year, something will happen, a loss, severe stress, a trauma anniversary, and you will find yourself back in bed with that leaden feeling in your veins or your heart racing with panic. And at that moment, your mind will scream the cruelest lie of all. You have failed. We are in chapter 1 again. All the effort was for nothing. We have walked in circles and are at the same starting point. I want you to engrave this in your mind now, while you are lucid and strong, so you can remember it when you are in the fog. Life is not a circle, it is a spiral. Imagine a spiral staircase. When you climb a spiral staircase, you pass the same vertical coordinate over and over. You look north and see the same window. I'm in the same place, you think. But if you look down, you will see that you are 3 meters higher than the last time you passed there. You are in the same emotional coordinate, sadness, fear, but you are on a different level of consciousness. When winter returns, it will not be the winter of trauma you experienced at the beginning of this book. That winter caught you naked, homeless, toolless, and clueless about what was happening. You were a lost child in the storm. The next winter will catch you with a house built. It will catch you with a full pantry of preserves, your resources. It will catch you knowing that it is just a season, not the end of the world. The difference between relapsing and revisiting is awareness. You are not going to relapse into the abyss. You are going to revisit the cold, but this time you are wearing a coat. To ensure this is the case, we will close this book by creating your winter emergency kit. A good gardener doesn't wait for the frost to look for protective tarps. They have them prepared and folded in the shed. I want you to literally create, physically or digitally, a box or a list with the following. This is your life insurance for when your brain shuts down. 1. The low dopamine menu for hypoarousal. When you are depressed or frozen, you won't have the energy to do yoga or cook healthy. You need things that require zero effort, but give you a little light. Write a list of 5 easy things. Watch that show you've already seen 10 times, and that comforts you. Friends, The Office. Snuggle up with the weighted blanket. Drink a glass of water. Put on a soft music playlist. Pet your animal. Instruction for your future self. You only have to do one of these things. You don't have to be productive. 2. The fire extinguisher for hyperarousal. When you are in panic or rage, an ice pack in the freezer to put on your chest nape and activate the vagus nerve. A list of songs to dance, shake out the energy. The phone number of your green person. Chapter 8. A designated cushion for screaming. 3. The letter from summer. Write a letter now from your current state of strength and clarity, addressed to your scared future self. Tell it what it needs to hear. You are the only person it will trust. Dear me, I know everything seems dark now. I know you think this will never end. But I promise you it is just chemistry. It is just a cloud passing. We have gotten through this before. I am the proof that we got out. You just have to breathe and wait. I am with you. I love you. Keep it in the kit. Read it when you can't think. 4. The list of truths, cognitive diffusion. A list of facts to counteract the lies of trauma. Feeling fear does not mean I am in actual danger. My thoughts are mental events, not facts. Rest is productive. I am not alone. The 4 Seasons of Your Mind. This audiobook challenges the traditional narrative that healing is a straight upward line toward a final goal. Instead, it proposes a cyclical biological vision. You are not a machine that needs repair. You are an ecosystem that needs cultivation. Across 10 chapters, we journey through the internal seasons of trauma and recovery, using the metaphor of the gardener and the Japanese philosophy of Kintsugi, repairing with gold, to transform pain into wisdom. Winter, the Right to Hibernate, chapters 1 to 3. The journey begins in the cold. Here we redefine depression, apathy, and paralysis, not as character flaws or laziness, but as a biological freeze response, dorsal vagal. Your body, facing an overwhelming threat, flipped the switch to save you. We learn that the first task is not to force action, but to validate the right to hibernate. We stop fighting the cold and start building an inner greenhouse, a space of mental safety founded on physical anchoring and breathwork. We discover that external inactivity is not emptiness, it is fallow. Beneath the earth in the darkness, the roots are expanding. We differentiate between rotting, inactivity with guilt, and rooting, inactivity with intention. Understanding that this invisible work is the necessary foundation for all future growth. Spring, the Pain of Thawing, chapters 4 to 6. When safety is established, the ice breaks. We enter the most confusing stage, spring. We discover the paradox that beginning to heal often hurts more than being broken, due to emotional reperfusion. Anxiety returns as a sign of life, not regression. We learn to manage this torrent of energy by widening our window of tolerance through titration, feeling in small doses, so as not to become flooded. On the mental plane, we become botanists. We stop fighting the weeds of intrusive thoughts and learn to observe them without fusing with them, cognitive diffusion. Finally, we face the outside world with our first shoots. We understand that vulnerability requires protection, so we install a velvet rope. We learn to set firm but kind boundaries, protecting our nascent energy from predators and draining relationships. Summer, the Energy of Fire, chapters 7-8. With boundaries set, the temperature rises. Summer brings the energy of rage. We break the stigma of anger, recognizing it as a sacred emotion of dignity and protection. We differentiate rage, a healthy emotion, from aggression, harmful behavior, and learn to channel this volcanic fire through somatic exercises to reclaim our personal power and agency. But summer also teaches us that the lone tree does not survive. We dismantle the myth of hyper-independence and embrace co-regulation. We seek cross-pollination, identifying a safe tribe, green people, who help calm our nervous system, accepting that we need others to complete our healing. Autumn, the Golden Harvest, chapters 9 to 10 and conclusion. The cycle culminates in autumn, the season of integration. Here we apply Kintsugi. We look at our scars and, instead of hiding them, fill them with the gold of consciousness. We analyze the fruits of post-traumatic growth. We discover that we are now stronger. Our relationships are more authentic. We appreciate life in high definition, and we have found a new existential meaning. We accept that we cannot go back to who we were before the trauma, and that we wouldn't want to. To close the cycle, we practice the art of letting go. We drop the leaves of the victim and patient identities because they no longer serve us for the next stage. The book concludes with the final teaching of the ascending spiral. We accept that winter will inevitably return because it is the law of life, but we understand that we will never return to the same place of helplessness. We now have an emergency kit. We have deep roots, and we have the certainty that we are capable of putting ourselves back together. The final message is a vow of self-loyalty, the promise never to abandon ourselves without mattering the weather outside. We have transitioned from being survivors to finally being the gardeners and owners of our own lives.